Oh, whoa. Deja vu, guys. Hello, and welcome to the DoodleCast. I'm here today with Kat, and then the homie Sam. Mike. Oh, my God.
What are you doing, man?
Well, this is the probably a millionth time. It's, we play a game on this show sometimes called How Bad is Nick with Names? I think...
That guy's name's Sam.
That's Samson.
Yeah.
Whose birthday it is. Happy birthday, Samson.
Happy birthday, Samson. All right, well, anyway, welcome to the DoodleCast. We're here today to talk about art and music, because it's something that, is around, right? Well, anyway, Mike, I'm so sorry for getting your name.
I thought you were just talking about that guy over there.
Yeah. Just tell us about yourself.
So I just moved to Denver not too long ago, about a year. I've been kind of getting slowly absorbed into the rhythms and pulses of the city, musically and artistically. I've been playing with a band called Picture the Waves, which is like a avant-garde, acid jazz, progressive fusion band. I mean, we do a lot of improv and crazy stuff. Not like a jam band, though. No. And then that's the main differentiation between us and jam bands, is that we're not like one.
Yeah, right. Way to clarify.
Right.
You gotta clarify.
Well,
yeah, we had the pleasure of watching part of your band yesterday down at Meat in the Street, and me and Nick were both incredibly impressed. We really, really enjoyed the show. And, they were playing with a drummer that they had met the night before, and, it was totally all improv, just like, yo, this is how this song goes, and, just going for it.
Yeah, I think... careful with the... I think it's that over there.
Oh, yeah. I think I just went out.
Touch those wires to the other one. Last one. There
here we go.
Weird.
Yeah.
Back at it again.
We got goblins in here.
Dwarves.
But yeah, we saw you yesterday, and it was dope. And just kind of back to that, I got this whole theory about jam bands. I'm sorry if I piss off anybody in the internet world out there, but if you're telling everybody that you jam, do you really jam? But yeah.
Well, yeah, let me wrap that up.
Yeah.
I guess with the how it connects to the art thing, too, is for the past couple of years I've been doing some kind of what I'm calling transcendental doodles. Yeah. And it's just where you put basically all of yourself in it, to where, if you're really doing it, is it even a doodle anymore?
Yeah.
And at that point, it just becomes more of a question of doodle semantics and people using doodle as almost derogatory term for art. Like my mentor, Bart Johnson, he's a really famous artist that fell under the radar a couple of years back, had a bad experience with his art manager or whoever was managing his work across the world, and he just had to pull all his stuff because it was being used in all these weird ways, like psychologically manipulating other people to buy cheaper art, and putting a $20,000 painting behind a $300 vase, and people are like, "Oh, I'll take that vase." But that being said, he taught me a lot about how to see and value art. And this story happened the other day where we were both sitting at Steam Coffee working on this art, and a woman and her daughter came up and were really interested in what he was working on. I had walked to the bathroom, so I came back, and he said, "I missed a lesson." And I was like, "What do you mean?" So he starts telling me the mom was really interested in his work, and the daughter, I guess, didn't want her mom to be talking with this random guy, kind of really crazy artwork, and she's just like, "It's a doodle, right?" When this guy's explaining his artistic philosophy and just expressing himself really openly to someone who asked to see his art. So he was being vulnerable. And this young girl basically tried to just chalk it all up as it's just a doodle. And then he just was like, "Okay, yeah, you're right, it is." And then they left. But that's just kind of how to value yourself. Was what the lesson is. It's he knows it was more than a doodle, and he was trying to tell the mom who saw him really, and people aren't being taught at a younger age how to value it and respect it and see it as that person's expression on paper or on an instrument.
Yeah.
And I left out that I also play in a few other groups around town. So we share a bass player with Los Mocochetes, which is voted by Westward as the best Latin band in Denver, which is awesome. They totally deserve it. There's some other really good ones, too, that are up there. But he has been, introducing us to a lot of people as a native in the music scene. And we've been getting the opportunity to play with a lot more people lately. So I play drums for a hip-hop group sometimes called Wise Beyond Knowing. And then I also play jazz piano and drums for Diego's side project stuff, which he plays guitar as well.
Yeah.
So I've been getting around a lot musically lately.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you're kind of touching on a subject that's really close to home for me with like the art and music stuff. A minute ago, like that like whole idea that like society doesn't value certain things because
they're not taught to.
They're like not seen as serious, or you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like when you grow up in the arts, like it's even true in music. Like I was a bass player, and if you were a bass player in orchestras, there's something like you heard so many times growing up, and it was stop noodling, stop playing. Like because it's like to me, a lot of the stuff around art, they're like, you need to take this serious. This is like a real thing. But I mean, if we're being honest, we're just playing, guys.
Yeah, it's all play.
And play is good. There's a reason why animals do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a kitten, kittens like to pretend that things are what they aren't and then go after it. And that's like getting them ready for the real thing.
Yeah.
But it's all based on play, and they get better at doing that through play.
Mm-hmm. I really stuck with me what you're saying about, just like, doodling in general and what that means to people and how, it's not taken seriously, really. And even, like, to the extent where, like, my own art for a really long time, I only considered, like, doodles, because people ask me, like, what do you do? Like, what kind of art? What does it look like? I was like, oh, I doodle. It's no big deal. Like, like a way to kind of lessen it, not only for other people, but to myself.
I think we sometimes mistake, being down on ourselves as being humble.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that line kind of affects the bottom line of our confidence when it comes to art.
Definitely.
Talking about ourselves.
Yeah. It's like a very recent thing for me to have any sort of confidence in any art that I do, and I still really haven't developed much of that with music, which is crazy because like me and Nick were both like classically trained orchestral musicians. I play the cello, but I actually even pulled out my cello last night, and I hadn't done that in a really long time, and I just played a little bit, and I was like, wow. I've been kind of dreading picking it up and just playing it because I'm like, oh, I'm going to just be so shit. Like, I haven't done this in so long. I'm just going to be horrible. But, I picked it up and I started playing, and I was like, wow, I can actually still play.
Did you think about it beforehand or no?
No.
Just kind of did it?
Just kind of did it.
That's the best way.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I played a lot, too, when I was in orchestra. I always got scolded for noodling also, just kind of messing around when we weren't playing all together. And I love doing improv music. I love just coming up with stuff on the spot with other people.
I think we were talking about that with Braxton, the drummer we met day before yesterday. We walked into Appaloosa after going to Los Mocochetes show at Lost Lake, and we basically saw this band killing it, and we went up to them after the show, or after their break, during their break, and just introduced ourselves, Drake and I. Drake's the guitarist in our band, who's also a classically trained bassist.
Yeah.
And he resents being classically trained because he just wants to noodle as well.
Yeah.
But he's our guitarist, and we just went to the drummer, the synth player, and everyone else who was in the band that had some time for us, and just, became acquainted, which is what you do. If you want to be musically connected, just be a person first. And so we got really good connection with him and hit him up the next day when we found out our permanent drummer couldn't make it to the gig because he was in a prior obligation. But, he showed up, and we talked about how improving just makes you make the most genuine music sometimes. Like, if you are an honest person musically in general, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that really comes from just this idea of, like, presence and being really, really present when you're doing anything, you know, and having an improv music kind of scene and just like being with people where you're just doing this together and haven't thought about it before. It's just right at that moment. It's just like a really awesome like, lesson in presence. And that's how I do my doodles too. I never think about like what they're going to look like before I do them. It just kind of like happens really organically.
I don't like to try to think too much on it and make it all premeditated, because then I try too hard to execute what I was thinking about, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say.
Happy accidents are the most important, in my opinion.
I am all about the happy accidents. I mean, our existence here right now is kind of a happy accident, guys.
Totally.
Isn't that cool?
Definitely.
So it is everything, I think.
I see a very clear clarity about how I got here in this moment, where because of Diego, our bass player, was playing bass for his band for a WeAreDenver event, and they graced me with the opportunity to sitting in on guitar for a couple songs, and you know, Ryan was there who put on the event, and we became friends after that, and it just kind of stumbled into the Meet in the Street show, and then
yesterday we're like, hey, we need an artist for our show tomorrow. Oh, I do visual art too. Yeah, that was definitely pretty synchronous.
Totally, and that's how you kind of get in really connected communities.
Yeah, that's the most important way. Yeah, you were just talking about this earlier, like while we were just hanging out, just that how important it is to really like be homies with people before you like try to, you know, sort of advertise your art or, you know, show them stuff that you do. Like you really have to have sort of a personal connection first for that to have any sort of impact on them. I think that's really important.
So yeah, so I kind of have a point since we decided to do the music and art thing. So my first question for you guys today is, because this is something that I find really interesting with like people who do art that also do music, because I think it's pretty unique to it. And we were kind of touching on it. So the way that your art socializes, how would you say that's like, how does that apply from music to art? Because I believe music is a very social medium in general, right?
And like art, not so much.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people originally wanted art to be a social medium, like as in like expressing themselves in ways that they can't say with words, but then using the piece as the vehicle to find the right words. Like, you know, a Rorschach test with someone's psychology is a very similar way. It's like stimulating a conversation based on things that the person was actually thinking about or might be subconsciously drawn to.
Yeah, most definitely. Because I don't know. It's really weird because I, like, culturally was brought up around musicians. So, like, musicians are more sociable. Like, artists hide things forever and ever.
Even in the art.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks that the reason that is because, like, music inherently is something that is to be, like, shared between people. And, you know, people will take, like, a riff someone else did and modify it and, like, remix it. And, like, that's just, like, an essential part of music, kind of. And it's not considered really, like, stealing. It's just, like, sharing. But there's not really too much of that in art. Like, when someone does something that is, like, sort of unique and then someone wants to, like, use that and make their own thing, then the person who originally made it usually gets really offended, like, you're trying to steal from me.
Or flattered.
Or, yeah, that's true. There are definitely instances.
It really depends on the artist's perception of their own work. Like, I know if someone used my work without asking me and then got some degree of notoriety for it. I think it would be more of just the exposure in their name versus, like the art itself that I created getting, or, I don't even like to say sometimes that I created the art because sometimes it just happens and I don't know, like, if I should be taking credit for what's just happening through me.
Yeah.
But that gets on this other stuff, but
Oh, no.
to really kind of answer that other question of, like, what does it, I guess, speak to, or where you were getting at with, like, how it's social is whenever we create a platform for interactions that wouldn't happen otherwise, I think is one way that art can be social and has been historically, is like, in galleries and stuff, you can stimulate a conversation with someone because there's art on the wall in a brick room where there's nothing else except the art and the people and maybe like some social lubricant, but which is also kind of what creates those venues in the gallery for conversation, is like, people do stimulants like coffee or whatever at art venues and wine and all that, and it's like that helps people feel more comfortable talking about what's in front of them that they might not feel comfortable expressing their opinion of otherwise.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes I think sometimes people are afraid of their own opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Those things are scary. You can watch opinions lay waste to the landscape. But
I think that some of the most effective art, as far as like affecting other people and engaging other people and making other people feel like, wow, this is something that I really connect with, actually uses both visual and aural elements. Because those are, I kind of think, the most important sort of ancestrally to humans. Things that we see and things that we hear can kind of bring us back really rapidly to like a moment or just an idea. So I really like artists that incorporate musical elements into their visual art. I think that's really cool.
It's just like a different frequency of vibration.
yeah, well, it's like, somebody who's like, I don't know, you've probably heard this before. Somebody's like looking at a painting. I don't know, just for the sake of humor, I'm going to say it's a Rothko, just because that'll make me giggle a little bit. And they say, this really speaks to me.
That's a very common phrase.
Absolutely.
But what is it saying? Whatever it's saying is usually what they are thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says something different to like every person,
Yeah.
Which is it's the same for music usually, but I think that there's a lot more like continuity between what music says to people. Like I think
it's more specific.
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is a lot more specific
because you can actually use words that like. Yeah. There's no misunderstanding what they're trying to say sometimes. Sometimes music is very cryptic, and that's like that artist mystique.
Yeah, it is like more when we talk about it. It really is hard to really set very distinct boundaries between music and art. Like they really are so similar and intertwined, and really a lot of the times the purpose of them are the same. So.
To evoke something. Yeah,
and I think that's why a lot of musicians get into visual arts and vice versa. It's kind of,
Yeah, personally, the reason why I do all this stuff, like, from my past perspective, is it was what I was told I was good at growing up, and I never got that affirmation in any other category of my life, so it's kind of like just what I kept doing.
Right.
Yeah. That's how music was for me, and then I stopped doing it because I was trying to seek out other kinds of affirmation, I think. It's like this, I can't just be a one-trick pony, like this.
I also try to like draw a line between affirmation and validation, because when I'm getting affirmed, it increases my confidence. When I'm getting validated, it like is actually like a band-aid for insecurity.
Yeah, it's just your ego.
Just boosts your ego a little bit. Yeah. I know.
I got an easy question. Well, easy-ish. And it might get us off topic, but that's fine. What do you like to listen to? when you're spacing out and drawing stuff, guys? And feel free to answer however, whenever.
I really like the band Toe. They're a Japanese math rock band. Tigran Hamansian is Armenian jazz pianist. Kneebody's really crazy jazz band.
Oh, yeah.
Mars Volta. Hikes, Austin Nature Rock, I guess is what a lot of people call it. It's also math rock.
Nice.
Cleanup is my friends from Fort Worth. They're also really good at math rock. I listen to a lot of like experimental, more on the jazzy side. These bands aren't really improv, but I've heard them improv in certain sections. That was kind of an impetus to realizing I could do that too.
That's cool. I can see the math rock influence in your art, kind of. I love that. That's cool. Me, on the other hand, I probably listen to more... Honestly, most of the time when I'm drawing, I'll just like put on a TV show and not watch it, but just listen to it. How weird is that, right?
I like a lot of podcasts too.
Yeah. But if I am listening to music, I kind of like it to be instrumental. That's weird, because like I'll listen to TV where it's just words,
just people talking.
But then when I do want to listen to music while I'm drawing, I'll just listen to instrumental stuff.
If I'm writing like lyrics or poetry or anything like that, I don't like to listen to things with words, because then I'll get really confused with the words I'm thinking.
Yeah, right. It just like accidentally influences you.
I'll start writing the same words I'm listening to.
What about you, Nick?
Oh no!
I love directing your questions at you. It's like, if you're gonna fucking ask us,
how dare you reveal my tastes to people? I am like super moody with it. Like one day I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna get down on some neo soul and just draw some funky stuff. I don't know. Like visually, I gotta just inform. If we're gonna talk about taste, I guess. Like I was brought up on Matisse and Escher, you know. So if I'm feeling more in that like Matisse kind of vibe, just that like, hey, I'm very human. Here's a shape. Enjoy. I usually listen to stuff that does have human voices in it, but if I am drawing like more patterny stuff, I love me some jazz. I've been going through a little Kneebody kick, because I used to listen to him a lot back in the day. I was like, I wonder what they're up to now, and it's awesome.
Yeah, they just, I think, put out that new album a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught them at Dazzle before I lived in Colorado. And it was like one of the reasons I was like, I gotta move here. All the good jazz is here.
Yeah, it's kind of a trip, right? Like, yeah.
It's a trip that Dazzle moved.
Right.
That's a trip to me. I haven't been to their new location.
I just found out about that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Me too.
They're like downtown now, which is weird. It's really weird.
It's very strange.
I'll probably always miss that little South Broadway hub.
That was a cool spot.
That was a really cool spot. I understand they like want to expand and stuff, because it was a small spot for sure. But that, you know, the coziness of it was. I was
sitting front and center at like this really nice little like circular table at Dazzle when Kneebody played, and they saw me like, you know, just amazed like the whole set, and then I got to go sit with them kind of off to the right of the stage. Nice. And then they're just kind of telling me about their time with Tigran, because they played with that guy too, and that's how I found out about Kneebody. Was this guy Tigran, the Armenian jazz pianist? He's like been winning like jazz competitions and stuff since like 12 years old. And he had Nate Wood, the drummer of Kneebody, as his drummer for a while, and Ben Wendell, the sax player, and they all, I think, toured with Tigran and learned a lot from him, because he's just this really unique pianist who kind of thinks of everything in like threes and twos. Ooh. So like every other number is just kind of like those numbers added up. So he fundamentally like has this grip on rhythm that I've never really heard another pianist play, and when he syncs up with a drummer, it's unreal. It's heavy. Yeah. And you don't expect it to be like that heavy for jazz sometimes.
Yeah, it's like weird because it's like with guitarists and pianists, because they can kind of cross between being rhythm section and melody instrument and harmony. It is like, it's magic when pianists and guitarists just like sync up with the pure rhythm dudes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I really like those. It's like the whole band is moving in the same direction.
Yeah, nothing like rhythm section for life.
I feel that. But as a jazz drummer myself, I like to really submerge myself in it. In what the guitar player is doing sometimes, so that it really I don't know, it adds a complexity to the drums you don't really get unless you're following the guitar.
Yeah, well, and it's also the same for a guitarist. Like, when, I don't know, because this is a weird thing, but like the first time you ever play a bossa nova, and it's like you play it at a pretty quick clip, you play it at a pretty high tempo. Like, for a guitarist, like, they're listening to the snare for what rhythm they need to do, you know? And then the drummer is listening for them, too, because they're playing with each other's rhythm. And it's so innate, which is weird because there's so many, like, kind of the image of guitar is not that. You know what I mean? It's very strange.
Yeah, a lot of people just associate guitars with Santana solos.
Yeah. Or metal.
Freebird.
Like, yeah.
Or like just acoustic, like C chords.
Just a guy trying to steal your girlfriend with a guitar.
At an open mic.
At an open mic.
Yeah.
Hey, if he can do it at an open mic, like, with that
More
much.
power to you.
him, for real.
It's funny.
Yeah. Well, what do you like to look at? And this is, I'm just gonna ask you, man.
People's
like,
faces.
Yeah, like yesterday, I don't know, I just gotta ask you, what did you think about playing in the middle of the 16th Street Mall?
It was pretty surreal because I remember so in January is when we started Picture the Waves, and we didn't really have a full lineup that was like completed until June, July-ish. But as soon as we had it, I mean, everything started kind of rolling in the right direction. So I remember thinking, I want to play 16th Street Mall. I live like 2 blocks, into it, and right above the Starbucks Aveda Institute on California 16th. I live right there, so I moved there in June, and I was like, I really want to play down here, but I want like the works. I want a sound guy. I want like all that stuff like set up. I don't want to have to do it. And like then I met all you guys, and it was like kind of really surreal whenever I was playing it, because all the sounds that we play were mixing really curiously with the textures of the city sounds, and it was kind of like a surreal experience, like I was saying, like an actual artistically surreal experience. Like, the bus would drive by and there'd be like a screeching delay at the same frequency as the bus tires, and I was like noticing all these little things like that, like someone dropping something right at the same time as he hit the drum beat. Like, it was all those little synchronicities that were the most interesting about the whole thing.
For real, I was noticing that kind of stuff too, and it was so cool to have you guys' sound mixed with this like soundscape of downtown, and then create this whole new soundscape and experience that. And I think you guys pulled in quite a little crowd, because I think a lot of people were kind of feeling that, and it was like, it was really interesting. And at the end of your set, Nick was like, man, this is like, I think my favorite set that we've done on the street, and like we've been doing this for like 2 years, so it was really, really, really cool.
That's so cool to hear. Honestly, I'm flattered.
Yeah, dude.
I thought it was one of the coolest shows I've ever played. So,
well, it's really weird because it's like not a lot of music lends itself particularly well to that environment. Mm-hmm. To be honest, like for like when I'm running sound on it, it's like I'm always having to figure out weird little hacks just to make things work.
And
for you guys, it was just like,
just
oh,
long
this is easy.
Hallway, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Nick comes up, he's like, this was easy. And it's funny because it didn't sound easy at all, but it just happened really effortlessly.
That's the idea with our music, is like, we've been all, instead of focusing on like what most musicians focus on with like getting really good at scales and chords and learning different modes of each of those things, it's just like they focus on a part that feels downstream to me. And I'm like focusing on where the water's coming from. And I feel like if I could just make that flow easier, then everything else downstream's easier.
Yeah.
And more effortless. And I think about art that way too, where if I can just draw a line, one line, and get as much meaning across with that one line as possible, every other line that I add is going to add like a ridiculous amount of context to it. And then it just like, that's the downstream effect.
Yeah, man. A lot of my pieces are actually just one line, so it's funny that you say that. Like that's something I definitely vibe on like a lot. Like just having one line and trying to express as much as you can with just this one line, and then at the end, the start of the line and the end of the line connect. So yeah.
I'm digging this brush pen too. I mean, I've never used one this big before.
Oh yeah, I like those bold Pigmas. It's my pen of choice right there.
Usually, if I want to get this thick of a line, I'll spend like 20 minutes shading two other lines.
Me too. Me too. I know, like, I just use these shitty ballpoints, and then I just, like, meticulously go over it over and over again. And I can't ever skip. Every time I try to use a pen like that, it just, like, it's hard for me.
Well, it's because, there's, like, weird imperfections that come out of it, you know?
Which is your whole shtick. You love that.
That's the happy accident thing.
Yeah.
I'm just, like, I still am battling, like, my perfectionism. It's a constant thing for me that I kind of realized at a really young age that it was something that was super affecting my life, just this strive for, like, excellence in these. And I think a lot of it came from being a classically trained musician.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm kind of I'm thankful for that experience because it has taught me a lot of patience, which I use in my visual art right now.
That's a common theme with my art is patience, like, because that's what separates it from a doodle.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, it'll start out being a doodle, and then the more time I spend on it, the less it's a doodle.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And some of my pieces, you don't even realize how much time I've spent on them, but it's like, I did this for about 24 hours, like almost nonstop.
It's always, it's always like a weird thing because it's like, and I'm just going to ask this question because I'm like, oh, here's where it fits. I like that we got back here. Because this is what we were just talking about, timing, right? So, like, being in music, you're aware of, like, the timing and the rhythm of things, right? So I'm just going to ask you first, like, and it's come up a couple times, but rhythmically, what are you drawn to in music?
I like odd time signatures and things that, like, make me think or feel something I'm not expecting. Like, whenever I hear a song, and if I can already know where it's going, that's cool. But if I get totally taken away with, like, what they do with the song and take it in a different direction than where I'm thinking it's going to go, I think I get way more dopamine release.
Yeah. I'm totally on that same boat. Like, I don't know. I have, like, a fetishy thing with 11/8. I don't know. It's a problem.
That was one thing that the drummer yesterday really, like, stepped up, and he just, like, instantly, like, knew the time signature of everything I played.
Yeah.
So it was like that dude's understanding of timing was partly why we were able to even do what we did yesterday. If we picked any other drummer, honestly, he was our last option, our first option, or he was our second option. Our first option was our actual drummer, and our second option was this dude and a few other people. I count them all as second options because they're like the best in that category of second options.
Yeah.
And the third option, last resort, was just pull up one of those like bucket drummers off of 16th Street.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious.
We were totally prepared to do it as well. Like,
Honestly, that's a cool idea. We might just have to do that this last weekend.
But yeah, those guys would have loved it.
the only problem is like they're on PCP and stuff, so it's like hard to get them to do what you want.
That's the only problem.
I mean, isn't that kind of like a drummer thing with or without drugs anyway? Like,
True.
so many times in my life, I've been like, "Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to tune, man." Or you're like, like, it always happens.
Yeah, no, that drummer was I was impressed by him a lot too. Because
Yeah,
you would
dope.
play a riff, be like, yeah, the song goes like this. And be like, all right, yeah, it's in 6/8, and then he would like go into not only just like a 6/8 beat, but like a really cool 6/8 beat
Yeah,
that like you
yeah.
don't hear very
He didn't
often, or
stop
that
at
like
6/8.
yeah, exactly. Like he totally understood how time signatures meld with one another at the same time. Yeah.
And that was the only
Getting
time I
feels.
actually even like had that conversation. Every other weird time signature we played, he just rode that wave
Yeah.
without conversation. I think
it's cool.
in between every song, I think I was just like, fuck yeah, more than telling him what the next song was about.
Yeah, no, there were definitely a few times where you just didn't say anything at all, and it just was like this really like raw transition that just was like so organic.
That's kind of what we aim for, is like that least resistant, organic soundscape deal.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I think we have a lot of momentum with this project just because we have a lot of really good people supporting it and in it. Like all my friends who are in Picture the Waves or associated with it in any way, like, are the only reason like it's still a thing, and that I'm still like wanting to stay in Colorado. I like Colorado a lot, but I feel like I would be poised to move around a lot more if I wasn't in a band, and I just don't have any desire to do that at this moment.
That's
because
cool.
of how things feel with it.
Yeah, no, we even had like people coming up before you guys' show and being like, that just sounds cool. Like, just the name, you know? They were just like, wow, I'm intrigued by that. I'm going to come check it out. And then when they did, they were like, whoa, this is awesome.
We've been torn on the name for a while, and like not sure if people love it or hate it.
I really like it, and I think that actually the name of the band works so well into what we're talking about today, because it's got like this visual element to it, but also this sound element to it.
It's based on a painting of a wave, not just a wave. It's kind of like a bunch of waves. It's a painting at our drummer's house that I don't know where he got it, but it's really, really hyper detailed, and like he wrote some lyrics in this other band he was in called Thought Pilot, which is a local kind of djent metal band, real technical. Guy named Cody operates that band, and Clay used to be the drummer in it, and he was like helping writing lyrics for that band. They wrote this lyrics that says "Picture the Waves," and then we named our band after it.
Cool.
After both the painting and the other lyric, kind of as a homage to the band.
My first thought was like, it kind of especially when I was like hearing you guys, like it inspired me to like close my eyes and like picture your sound waves, like the waves that you guys are emitting with the music. Like, what does that make you like? What are you like? What is happening in your head? What's happening behind your eyes? That like,
I close my eyes a lot during my playing as well.
I think people should close their eyes at shows more in general. I think that it's really important to like experience music without any visual element, because most of the time visual stuff will come to you, and that's like really cool. You're like kind of like, oh, I'm tripping, but I'm not tripping, and it's just the music, man. I love when that happens.
Our music can make you trip.
Yeah, definitely.
PSA.
Definitely.
Don't watch us if you have work in the morning.
Or if you're already tripping, right? That might be
Highly
It might be too
recommended
much.
you watch
Yeah,
us
no,
while you're
our
tripping.
friend who's pregnant right now, I think she was actually having kind of like a really like I think the baby was having a really visceral response to you guys' music, and she's like holding her stomach, closing her eyes, and just like you could tell she was like
She's
having
about
this
to give
crazy experience with it. And like I was like, that was really cool for me to see. It was like sweet.
Because that baby knew what he wanted.
Yeah, yes, he did.
That's awesome. That's really intense to hear. So
Right.
we have fans that aren't even born yet.
You do. You really do
That's
at least have one
amazing.
fan that isn't born yet. I want a fetal fan.
I'm getting lost in the implications.
Yeah.
You're like,
I'm
oh
like-
my god, this just blew my mind right
Yeah,
now.
I just was too.
How do I
was like,
reach a broader audience?
You gotta go straight to the fetus.
I only rock out in maternity wards.
Speaking of maternity, today is, we talked about it a few weeks ago with Aki, who is our pregnant friend that we're talking about. She is doing a mothers and expecting mothers event. It's really, really, really cool. You should check it out on Facebook. If you know any moms that need a little loving, just feel like they deserve to treat themselves, this is what this event is for. Yeah,
So if you know any moms, because it's all of them.
it's going on today, so do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our plug for the day.
I kind of
guys.
wish that I was a mom so that I could go to this event, but I'm not, which is,
It's okay too.
Well, do you really
Nothing
wish?
wrong with not being.
I know, I don't really wish I was a mom, I just kind of wish I could go to this event. I kind of was like, I'll watch other people's kids. I even told her that. I'll watch other people's kids just so I could go. But I don't know.
Borrow a kid for the event.
That's horrible. I probably could, though. I know so many kids. Yeah. I can't go to a park anymore without, like, seeing a bunch of kids I know.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, well, yeah, because sometimes I don't know their parents, but I just know the kids, and the parents will be like, who are you? Why are you talking to my child? And I'm like, I work at their school. Like, I work at DDS, don't worry about it. But yeah.
I haven't been coming to this park.
Yeah, I bet, yeah, really. I'm actually watching another kid. Like, I'm nannying this kid right here.
Just the more excuses you have to make,
Yeah, it gets weirder.
Weirder it sounds.
It's like, wait, you've kidnapped multiple kids now?
Luckily, I don't look sketchy, so usually it's fine.
Yeah, that would be if it was me in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. People
Like,
trust me with
They
their
just
children.
look at your beard. And
They're like, oh god.
This guy.
No, I'm that guy that when I'm walking down the street, somebody's like, hey, do you need acid? Like, they can just assume. Or they ask, hey, do you have any? Do you know where I can get it? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not really that. I just look like that.
I just have a psychedelic vibe.
Yeah.
Psychedelic vibe.
My life is a trip, guys.
You want to take it?
Yeah. I mean, whoa, shit.
I would wish that on anyone.
Right? Dude, this idea of synesthesia, I guess we were getting at it a little bit ago.
That was kind of a build-up.
Yeah, right?
Because we were talking about both, the senses separately, but how they're connected.
And that's
how they're
something...
more effective when connected.
Most definitely. Which I think the whole thing that comes down to synesthesia, and we've kind of talked about everything around this, but how do you feel about music? How do you feel about lines?
It's almost 100% feeling.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say exactly how, but...
It depends.
It's never really
depends.
one feeling either.
I ride those emotions depending on the circumstance. Like, it's funny, Drake and I were talking about that yesterday. It's like the feeling of it all. It's like, it's weird being a musician because you'll get super anxious over a show you want to play, and then like you'll do it, and you go through all the trouble of inviting people out, and like this is just for one show too, so you do this for every time, but like you get really anxious thinking like I got to get people there, or like you don't want to be not prepared or anything like that. And then that's kind of why we started focusing on the improv aspect a lot more, is because of all the different feelings that come with the build up to a show. It's like a lot,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of emotions, both positive and negative, that ride with it, just the event. And we were talking about how it affects us, and it ends up creating kind of the more genuine, honest aspects of the music, because we're just kind of reacting to, in a really clear way, what's happening around us, to us, through us. And the through us part is what ends up being heard. But I feel a lot of times that it's like a a synesthetic event where like my emotions are almost a separate feeling than what I'm hearing come out, but then they start to meld together, and then my art doesn't always reflect my emotions because it's, I don't know, it's more abstract.
Yeah, you have to, sometimes you like have to disassociate, you know? Like,
some of the best shows I've ever been to, and I'm specifically thinking of like Sir L's, because you know he has the same thing. Like he'll sometimes like meticulously plan stuff and be like super prepared for a show and have all this prepared work, but then in the middle of it he'll just be like, I'm just gonna do something I feel, and you know,
Yeah,
he'll
you
just
feel out the energy of the room, and
Yeah.
like there could be something that better matches what's going on.
There usually is. I think it's super important to be aware of that and to like practice that as a musician, to be able to just be like, okay, yeah, we're just gonna like riff something, like whatever happens. Like,
I know what this crowd wants.
yeah. Exactly, because every crowd's different.
I'm just going to tell the world this right now, the universe and anybody. If you have not seen Sir L's play with a looper,
I know, it's amazing.
you might need to reassess your life. It's great. Everybody needs more of that.
I agree.
What does he usually loop? Just
His
everything?
His
voice.
voice.
So he just has a loop machine and he does all the different parts of the song with just his voice. So he like, you know, he obviously starts it off with like a bass line usually, and then we'll beatbox over that. So he's got the rhythm section, and then he just riffs with his voice
That's tight.
over it. And usually, yeah, it's just like he'll even sometimes take suggestions from the crowd. He's like, give me a word, give me an emotion, and then he just does a piece solely based off of that.
See, we play a lot of emotions. Like
Yeah.
we can match emotions, but sometimes it depends more on like how we're feeling the emotions. Like we don't want, if we're feeling all like kind of more down, you know, we're not gonna try to play something super upbeat, like to match that emotion. And we might to challenge ourselves, but it's like usually what comes out is not going to be the complete opposite of how we're feeling. It's usually spot on with how we feel.
Yeah.
So like how I feel about music is usually how music sounds when I play it.
Yeah. And like I was saying before, like a really important part of that is like the fact that you are just like completely present in that moment, and that you can like understand how you're feeling and like see that and just be like, okay, I'm doing it.
I have like kind of a
Can
broader,
you feel it?
a broader answer to that question as well, where like a more philosophical sense, what I feel about music is that it's an actual thing, like it's a being of sorts. Like music is alive, and it's almost like a god, like that you should or could worship, and then you get not so much favor, but you know, like grace.
Yeah.
So like when you are grateful and like very outwardly showing your gratitude and thankfulness to the universe and music, it does that in response to you as well. Or it has some sort of response to you. That's I think what I'm getting at is like my feelings about music is that it's alive. It's a thing that I'm a part of, but like it is almost separate from me in the sense that it feels and thinks as well, has moods, drives, goals, the same as I. But usually those things are very like straightforward. Like the music just wants to be played.
Yeah.
And it doesn't care who's playing it for the most part.
I really feel that, and like I think about this a lot, the fact that music is a pretty essential part of every organized religion, because I really think that most organized religions like want to use that part of music that's so like real and so unpredictable and moving. You know, they use it to sort of propagate their religious ideas, and like because people are naturally going to feel that, and then it's what they think that feeling is.
Yeah, no. When someone else interprets anything for you, it's usually because they're trying to like get you to do something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you should always be kind of the last, I guess, say of what you believe. Don't just take what anyone else is telling you to believe or to interpret. Like if we just listen to a song right now that I didn't write, and I started telling you like what it means. Like honestly, if you thought something different during that, like you shouldn't believe me.
Yeah.
And it's the same with looking at a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like me, when I think about someone looking at whatever I'm doing, like, I'm like, you can see whatever the fuck you want in this. Like, I have no problem with you seeing, you know, whatever.
But yeah, when they start trying to say that's what it is,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, it's like, sorry, you're wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right to yourself, but like, I did this. Or like, I know what I think about this, and I'll just I'll listen to you, I'll respect your opinion, but like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I have to like honor my own truth.
I always just shake my head and I go, oh, yeah. Oh, I see that. Yeah. And then I leave it at that. 'Cause people always tell me they see stuff in stuff I draw that I had no intention of putting in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll try to look for it, but, you know, my perception's different.
People usually tell me about my art before I tell them about it.
Yeah, that's how people usually are about most things. I mean, most people just think that they're right.
I forget how many people aren't of a artistic mindset. I just assume everyone's an artist now.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like whenever I meet people who aren't artists and they try to tell me about art, I don't realize like where they're coming from until it's too late. And
It's
I'm
like a different language.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't quite agree, but that was what you think. I see.
Yeah, it's like when you're speaking English with like an English speaker from a country that speaks English entirely differently than you do. You know, because it's like the language kind of sounds the same at first glance, but it's a different language.
And do you really want to like take the time to educate them on it? And I know some people are worth that to us, and we will take the time to do it. But not there. I mean, there's too many more people who aren't artists than who are artists. It's just artists typically connect with others who are artists because then we don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
Or like we're in a world where we're outnumbered.
I was like talking to it. This is like related to that. I was like talking to this lady last night, and we were like talking about the same things and agreeing on like everything. But she was like trying to convince me how like everything is impossible because of like the institutions. Like she's just like, art is cool, but like, is there really any point to doing it? And I was like, yes, there is. That's the whole point of doing it.
It's very healing.
The craft, you know? It's not like, she's like, but it's not realistic. It's not going to change the culture. I'm like, yes, it is. Like,
And it has in the past.
yeah, it's like,
Yeah, you could have just thrown it back and been like, sorry, that mentality's not going to change the culture.
yeah.
Right? That's for real.
I can't get aggressive with people conversationally, though,
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
I probably wouldn't be like that.
Something he's been working on.
I
'Cause
would
people get scared of
say
me
it,
real
but I
quick.
wouldn't say it quite like that.
Yeah. I probably would have, but that's just because I'm me.
Yeah. You adorable bastard.
Yeah, most people don't get upset with me. But-
It's a rare thing. It's
I
amazing.
mean, well, like what Mike was just saying, I totally, honestly, always have to check myself about that, and like realizing that not everyone around me is artistic or has or really understands what that means. Because you know, we went to art school, we went to Denver School of the Arts, so like, and it's something when you grow up around that environment, like you don't realize how different every other environment
the rest
is.
Of the culture is.
Yeah, so I constantly have to check myself and be like, yo, not everyone has this experience. You both need to understand that, and you need to like
Move from there.
yeah, exactly. Like recognize it and kind of accept it, and then also try to learn how to communicate with people that are different from you. I think that's one of the most important things that we're coming into face of in our culture right now, is really the necessity for conversations to happen with people who are so different than you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in with like people like us having more time for those conversations rather than less.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I also feel like you guys are kind of doing that service with this podcast. So
We hope so.
Yeah.
But see, at the same time, we're still just talking to artists. But
you know, it doesn't mean only artists are listening.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
And you know what? I'm not trying to convert anybody. I just ran into this thing by existing, this like concept that is, you ever noticed that art is life? Life is art. You ever noticed that?
Wow.
There
Nick.
was I just saw this article the other day that there was a guy in the 1800s-ish in Paris who tried to like create a cult of art.
Oh, hell
like,
yeah.
Like a religion that is art.
Was it Dada? Are you talking about Dada?
No.
Okay. Dada is kind of like that, but
I think he led up to this.
He like leaned a little more towards the religious end though.
Yeah, like they had an art gallery that was like where they went to like worship art and like become in reverie, and they had a specific focus on like transcendental art pieces that were like just, you know, you'd walk in and get your mind blown.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff. And that was his whole thing, is like, if we can blow minds with art, then there's like this other thing about art that we need to be like figuring out. Like it's a tool, or it's a way that we're getting hidden messages from the universe, and we need to like respect and understand that and all this stuff. I just like kind of looked into it whenever I saw this article, and so I started reading about it and like this guy's philosophy and stuff, and he paved the way for a lot of like surreal artists to feel like there was value doing those really weird things.
That's fascinating. I would love to look into that.
I wish I remembered his name.
Yeah, that is pretty trippy, man.
I mean, it's so true. Like I was saying earlier, like a lot of these images that we feel comes from us because it's our hand that's doing it, they are really ancestral is the best word that I can think of. Like,
yeah, I feel a lot of genetic, like, compositional elements. Like, it's the waves and particles interacting on a really tiny level is what's influencing the final outcome of the stroke.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, most people don't realize that us as individuals are not really individual at all. We are
There's no separation in the universe, like, whatsoever.
between the past and the future and the present. Like, really, there isn't. And, you know, we're like everyone that came before us and everyone that will be and everyone that is now. And, like, just, it's so important to sort of think about that at the very least.
Yeah, no,
you don't have to accept it.
When I remember things like that, it makes what I'm doing artistically feel a lot more important, because I'm leaving this basically to myself, like, but the next self. So if I'm like the, you know, latest version of the biological technology that's carrying around my ancestors' memories, and then more specifically the sum total of all beings that came before we were humans, you know, we still contain those genetics from way back, and all of those memories are all recorded as well. So every bacteria that died, every experience from like whatever mammals led up to humans, we still have all that in us, and it's like accessible but not at the same time. I think it takes a certain mentality to be able to access it, and why that's like kind of more of a shamanic thing. But the art itself comes out that way, and one way that I just found out that you know can happen is with my mentor Bart. He's been doing these really surreal comic pages. They're really big. He used to be a famous comic artist as well, and he's doing these really big pages now. And he found this book at Bean Foster's in Golden the other day that had some old medieval art, and this one artist, who is a Celtic artist, used to create these portraits that were like bilateral or bisymmetrical clothes designs, like on people. So it was more about the clothes than the people, but the clothes had all these really, really trippy faces and stuff all over it, like really psychedelic. And it was this old Celtic guy or painting. And my mentor was basically talking about how he's been emulating this guy without knowing he existed for like the past year. And then all of a sudden he picks up this book and he's like seeing his art wrapped around people's bodies, basically, is what it looked like.
Yeah.
So it was like this other guy took that type of art and then made it into like what the outside of the person's skin looked like. And you couldn't tell what was clothes, what was skin, because there was a bunch of different colors and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Actually,
That sounds
might be able to
amazing.
like pull up the picture and just show the camera real quick. That way it's not all discussion.
That sounds really amazing. And I think that when you're in the face of that kind of thing, instead of like kind of freaking out and being like, oh, I'm never going to do anything original, like...
Yeah, no, he was like, this helps me figure out where I'm coming from.
Yeah, like being affirmed by that instead of like freaking out and being like, I'm never going to be original. Like none of us are ever going to be original.
Yeah.
Like that's really what it comes down to in my mind. Like, and people
Right.
that,
Original thought is unoriginal.
people that like have the illusion that they can have an original thought or make something that's truly original is really just an illusion to me.
It's an ego monster for sure.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that one. I used to be obsessed with that. It's like, if it's not original, I'm just going to throw it in the trash and
Yeah,
hate
I got
myself.
that way for a little bit where I was feeling jaded about people just ripping off each other over and over again.
Yeah.
But that's like such a beautiful thing.
And now it makes more sense why it happens. I mean, there's like a seemingly limited number of thoughts that we could all have at any one given time. All right, here is that Celtic artist.
Oh, yeah. Cool. Whoa. I love the faces on, like, the
His
thighs.
faces on knees.
Cool. Really cool.
I like that you guys can see in the command room. It's tight.
Yeah, well, I think we should probably be wrapping up.
We are getting pretty close.
I just want to thank Mike for coming on today. If
Thank
you
you
guys want to check
guys.
him out, full name Michael Carmen. You can check him out. I think that's your Instagram handle up there on the screen, I believe.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that was
Or
there.
Yeah.
yeah. So and like Picture the Waves, really really awesome band. We're really excited to have you on today. It's always for me really good to hear from people that aren't from Denver because we're usually pretty very like, yeah, we're from Denver, local.
Denverites.
But I think that it's so important to have other like people who love Denver still. Like that's still an essential part. Like fuck you Denver haters.
Totally.
Like you can't come on our
Right.
show.
Yeah.
But that aren't necessarily from Denver. So.
I really like Denver, and I feel like the reason why a lot of natives don't like people from out of town is because they don't really respect the natives. And I feel like I have this really like...
You've
I
met
don't
a
know.
lot of cool real natives.
Yeah,
You've
like-
been really lucky.
They've are the reason that I could even like do anything here. So it's like, why not show respect?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And
Thank
then,
you for tuning in, everyone.
and yeah, before we close everything out, just let us know if you have any things coming up, Mike.
I have been wanting to do like some psychic portraits on 16th Street.
Ooh.
So might start doing that pretty soon in the next couple weeks. So if you're out there, throw me a couple bucks and I will paint your existence as I see it from the inside.
Yeah, most definitely.
And then we're doing a benefit show, I think, October 1st, the Walk to Defeat ALS. We just got that opportunity yesterday after playing on 16th Street. Our drummer,
yeah.
Braxton, was like, when are you guys playing next? I want to play again. And then we were like, I don't know. And this guy literally walked up 2 seconds later, is like, I'm the event coordinator for the entertainment portion of the Walk to Defeat ALS. Would you guys like to play?
That's so
And we're
cool.
like, Braxton, that's our next show.
Fuck yeah.
But we're also going to do an EP release party. We've been recording. We have a studio that we've been self-recording in for the last couple months, and we're going to be putting out a really, really cool 3-song, each song being like several, probably like,
Yeah.
it sounds like several songs in one song, but they're going to be pretty long songs, 3-song EP.
Speaking Nick's language right now.
Yeah.
And it's they're all going to sound kind of real cohesive, like flowing into each other cinematically. We're putting that out on October 31st on Halloween. We're going to do hopefully a joint EP release party with Los Mocochetes. That way we just have everyone under one roof and really can pull our circles together.
Yeah.
And then hopefully Robledo plays that one. Robledo? Sometimes I get confused on their name. But yeah, if anyone knows of a good place to host that Halloween party, or if you want to make it like a house show and have 2-3 really awesome bands play, that's on the table. I think we're going to hold off on shows until October 31st so that we really just can focus on building the hype for the EP.
That's awesome, man.
But I'll be doing a lot more art, like I said, on 16th Street. We're going to set up like probably a little tent or something, like where you come in and become like transformed.
That's dope.
Sweet.
Little circus.
All right. So it looks like we are coming up on the end. And thanks for watching, anybody watching. And this is the DoodleCast.
We are Denver.
And we actually do have one more week of Meet in the Street. So you can come hang out with us coming up on Saturday. It's the last week. Last chance. All right. Much love. Be well.